Okay, welcome everybody. This is the first podcast I'm doing, so I'm really excited. And I have really great guests for you today. So today we're going to talk about mindset and many other things that involves in a career change, and especially when you leave the corporate world and what kind of happens when you go from there into having your own business. And my guest today is Chantell Leung. I hope I got the last name right.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone.
Welcome, and thank you very much for being my first guest. It's great to have you here, and especially it's great to have you talking about the mindset and the fears and the change that happens going from corporate 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship. Because it's a starting point in the whole process is the mindset and how things build up, and then you one day the action part comes in and you just have to get going. So
absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me on here. A little bit about my story and my background. Yeah. So I was in a 9 to 5 working, in a corporate setting. And from there, there came a moment when I always knew that I wanted to do something more, something bigger. And, a huge driver for me was freedom. And so it wasn't that I was I wasn't really happy with what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted more. And it reached a point for me where I kind of reached that cap of where I could go within the company. And so when I got used to the position and I was getting into the swing of things, I also found that my creative side started shrinking more and more. And so that was when I first started thinking that, I want to do something different. I want to pursue something different. And my vision was so big. At the time, I had no clue what I wanted to do, right? And so the very big pushing point for me was, and I know that this sounds, kind of negative in a way, because it does come from a place of fear. Which is really interesting. It does come from a place of fear. But what I started asking myself was, okay, if I were to, let's say I pass, I'm at my funeral. Right? What do you want people to say about you as a person and what you've done in your life? And when I put those two things together, staying at my corporate job and living this 9 to 5 type of lifestyle, versus, this fear of being at my funeral per se, right? And what people could say or what people could comment about my life, and looking back on the things that I've done or the impact that I've made, those were really it came to a point where I was asking myself, which one am I more scared of, really? And so in the end, this whole thing about where I want to see myself or what I want to do to make an impact, that's where that really ruled my decision. And I said, you know what? I've been wanting to do something. I have that inner craving, I really wanted to do something. And so after that was when it just started moving along. And honestly, I had no clue what I wanted to do in the beginning. So I had quit my job, and I was trying so many different things because I generally knew, but I didn't know, right? And so I was trying to do these workshops and speaking, masterminds, anything that I could find to see what my interests were, what my strong suits were, what my strengths, weaknesses, all those things, to find out who I am. Because in the corporate setting, you're so used to having someone almost bring down your personality a little bit, or your true essence, I would say. You're given your tasks and your job roles and everything, and you just execute. It's easy. But when so when you have a sense of freedom, sometimes that scares people too, because then they're kind of in this zone where it's they're kind of lost. They're not quite sure what to do. And with that, honestly, it's just, you live once, guys. Have fun with it. Explore.
Yes. It's not a dress rehearsal. You actually, this is it. You're live now.
Exactly. Yes. So that's where I would start.
Okay, cool. So you said you tried many different things to figure out what you wanted to do. So did you have that light bulb moment one day, like, oh, that's it? Or was it the whole process? How did that happen? And how did you decide to go into coaching? What was kind of the defining moment?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I think it was every single moment kind of led up to that. Yeah. There was a light bulb moment. So in the beginning, I played around with blogging. I was researching a ton on, building websites, or like the creative design aspect of, creating websites and everything like that, or writing workshops. And one of the things that helped me the most was journaling. Okay. So I literally kept asking myself, like, okay, well, I think I might like this. I think I might like that. But it was almost as if it was like I was trying to grab onto all these different things externally. Yeah. But in the end, what helped me the most was actually going back internally and sitting myself down and asking myself, okay, what do I really want? Yeah. And what's stopping me? What do I really want, right? Like, what kind of people do I want to get to know? And it's not just about, like the money aspect or the income or anything like that. It was honestly like, what do I want? Do I want to meet, new and interesting people? Do I want to be, skydiving? Like, what do I want?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah, and like when I was starting to think that, the more I wrote and the more I tried little different things here and there, and just really researching and soaking everything in, like this is a big key, is being open-minded. Yes. Because you never know, right? It's kind of like making friends with people that you never expected you'd be making, like they become lifelong friends versus, this relationship, all of a sudden, it's like this friendship all of a sudden ended and you don't know why, or something happens and you're just like, you know what, it's not working out type of thing, right? And so that's it's the same concept within trying to find your passions. Sometimes sometimes it just hits you and you don't even know what happened. You're like, oh, so then it's a light bulb moment, right? And then other times it's like, it takes a little bit more time for you to become a little bit more expansive, depending on your comfort zones and how open you are. Yeah. There's this saying in the movie, the recent movie, The Newest Cinderella, where it's like, the world opens up to you when you open up.
Yes, I saw that quote. I was going to actually mention it during the conversation. Yes.
And so when you put things into that type of perspective, I know that it's scary. I know that there's a ton of blocks. You still have bills to pay. You have all these responsibilities. But if you were to put that aside for a second and zoom out of yourself, like you're looking down from like a bird's eye view of how you're going about your life. Yeah. And what it is that, you're missing. Your vision becomes clearer and clearer. Yeah. That's the most interesting thing. It works in such a wondrous way that, it doesn't really make sense or logical or anything like that, but it just happens. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you have, when you're going through this change, because a lot of people, especially when they leave corporate world and want to start business, their friends and family is like, oh, but you got such a great career. You have safety in the corporate world. You got a salary and probably have a nice title too. Like, it's really not a good idea. And in that point, it's really hard to be like, how can you block all this out when everybody around saying like, are you sure? I don't think that's a good idea. We just want you to be safe and everything else.
Absolutely. So I cannot tell you how much I struggled with this. Yeah. It's hard. This is definitely not an easy thing, but something that I've found that has really, really worked for me is, kind of, how do I explain this? So if you have a deep desire within you, right? And let's say you're journaling and you're asking yourself these questions of, what do I want in my life? What do I want to be doing? How do I want to wake up the next day? What should I be doing tomorrow if I had my dream life, right? If I had my dream job. And if it really comes from this deep desire that you have inside, you wouldn't, and trust me, I was guilty of this when I first started. Okay. So I was, going out to my parents, my friends, my significant other, all these different people. I was even talking to strangers about it. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. But the thing is when you have that deep rooted desire and you actually let it bubble to the surface, you'll find that you want it, you know it. There's a sense of knowing. You use your gut intuition and it will naturally guide you there. When you let too many people in, there's too many voices to the point where you can't really tune in to your own gut feeling and your own frequency, really, right? Yeah. And so my biggest piece of advice around that is kind of trying to think of it as, yes, they're coming from a place of worry. They do love you. They do care about you. But when it comes to what you want, your desires and the impact, the difference that you want to make, you wouldn't have to ask anybody.
Yeah.
It's funny that we're having this conversation because it was, even recently I was like, should I hire this coach or that coach? And I was trying to find the right fit, right? Yeah. And the couple of mentors and the coaches that I had spoken to before, I was still like kind of unsure. So I went outside and I looked for outside validation and I was talking to my parents about it and my friends about it and all that stuff. And it's like, it's kind of pricey, but I think it'll really be beneficial for me. And then I would ask them for their opinions, and it was almost as if I was seeking their validation or seeking their approval to do this, or for them to convince me to do it, or not to do it, rather, right? But it was funny because when I found the right coach, I'll tell you, Nina, like, no questions asked, no nothing. I didn't go outside. I didn't ask all these other people. I just knew. Yeah. And I was so confident in that decision that nobody even knew about it. Until after I had made that transaction, until after I started working with her. Yeah. And if people asked me what was up or what I was up to, I was like, yeah, I'm working with this awesome coach. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah. And you get excited talking about it. There's nothing holding you back anymore. And so that's my kind of piece of advice is just build that space for you. Respect your dreams, respect yourself and what you want to do to kind of give yourself some time rather than, again, trying to pick out like all these things externally.
Yeah, that's good. Give yourself some time.
Absolutely.
That's hard.
Yes.
Like, I want it now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So how did you, I don't know if you mentioned how long did it take you when the first thought of I may need to leave corporate world to the day that you kind of figure out what you want to do? How long was the time? Was it a couple of months, weeks, a year, 2 years? Do you remember?
So in the beginning, it was actually a year before I left. Like during that year, I had already knew. So I did, because of all the fears and all of the insecurities and the unknown future and all that stuff, I did come up with a little bit of a game plan. So I wanted to save a certain X amount of dollars to kind of feel like a little bit of a safety net. Because when you think of your future, and how unknown it is, it'll add to the fear if you were to make a split-second decision and just leave right away. Yeah. So I find that, even though we want it now, that could be actually a motivator for you to reach a sense of safety net a little bit, especially financially, right? So I came up with a goal. I came up with an X amount of dollars, and it didn't get to the point where I wanted it to be per se. Yeah. But here's the thing. When you are always waiting for the right moment or the perfect moment, it's kind of like, I'm not quite sure whoever's watching if you guys have kids or not, but it's kind of like having kids or that big relationship, right? Sometimes if you wait for that perfect moment, it'll never happen. You're never going to be ready.
Yes.
Never going to be absolute. Like, I'm ready to have kids. I'm ready for this relationship, or I'm ready for this job, or I'm ready for, starting off on my own. Yeah. You're never going to be truly ready. So if you wait for perfection, it might never happen. Right. Yeah. And so that thought kind of pushed me to just kind of take that leap because, how do I say it? Like, the more I was in that environment, the more I felt like, I was starting to be more contained and more contained and more contained, where I just really wanted to just break free and just really explore. Yeah. And I'm sure that a lot of other people watching feel the same way. It's just that there's a fear there. So there's certain ways you can prepare for that, right? Yeah. To the best of your capability at that moment. So if that means you want to save, like, let's say $10,000 so that you have, let's say, a backup plan or some reserves on the side for 3 months or 6 months or whatever else, start with that. And so because you start with that, you already have that goal and you're working towards it. Yeah. And so you'll naturally put the action to it.
Yes, and it's not this big, huge dream and goal. It's something small you can do today.
Absolutely.
I do totally understand you need to make big goals, but sometimes when you make those, I want to have a Ferrari or something, that Ferrari is so far from today that it doesn't actually motivate today. So it's really hard to get going. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to come back a bit and figure out something you can do today to actually make it happen. Just the first step. That's it.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And so when you think of it that way, it's like, just to add on to that, you see this Ferrari, this big goal. Mm-hmm. How do you bring and hone that in, like you were saying, right? And so what are some action steps that you could be taking today? For example, it could be something so simple as opening a bank account and put it into a savings and dedicate, let's say 10% of your paycheck into that account every single time you get paid. Yeah. Those are daily action steps that will get you to that goal. Yeah. And so what I find is, and I'm a really impatient person too. I always, I wanted it now, right? But sometimes we have to do that little backtrack to take the steps to get there. If not, you're going to end up spinning your wheels, not knowing where you went wrong.
Yeah. Okay. So you're now a coach, so you're helping others. Did you have a coach at this time when you were figuring things out, or did you go solo the whole way?
So for my journey now, I became a coach because it was that light bulb moment. I stumbled upon it, and the more I researched, the more I read into it, I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do. And when that light bulb went off, I can tell you, everything just started happening.
Yeah.
It was a crazy month. Like, so I came back from a vacation in February, and right when March started, I got myself enrolled into the Certified Coaches Federation. Yeah. And so that is a certificate, and it's just a course for you to become a coach. And so I enrolled for the course, and I loved every single second of it. And so I already knew that it's like the more I was doing it, the more I was going through with the course, I was like lighting up, because it was like that aha moment where it's like, this is it. Like, this is home. And so, and then also in March, I also moved out to Vancouver, and just things started happening, and very, very quickly, you guys. So don't ever think that it will take so long. It might take a little bit of time in the beginning, but when you start putting action steps and when you get more clearer and clearer, things can happen so quickly for you. So within a month, I got my certification. I moved out here. I gave myself another month to build a website, and I have no technical background. Yeah. I launched in May, and then I got my clients in June. So it starts like when you, I know that the first part is really, really hard to build that momentum. Yeah. But when you get that going, it has like a snowball effect. Things will start falling into place.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. And you do take some action. It doesn't matter what the action is, as long as you take a little bit of an action towards your goal, and that will build up the momentum to actually reach your goal at the end. But
sorry.
But it's so easy there to stop, and it's like, oh, I'm scared. I don't want to do that. The fears will kick in, and it's really hard to then take the action step. You have to, you should be doing it, but then it's like, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of whatever comes in. And then it's like, I just go back to my office and that's it.
Yes. So in those moments of fear, what I have to kind of mention is everybody has fear, like every single one. And when I first started, if even just a couple of months ago, if you had come up to me and you had asked me, Chantell, let's do a webcast, I'd be like, no. But what we don't realize is when we work through that fear, those first couple moments, really, really scary. Yeah. But the more you get, you step out of your head and those feelings and you work along with them, right afterwards, you get into the swing of things and you start just be you. Yeah. Just be you. And things will flow naturally. And that's kind of what I've found. And another thing with the moments of fears are, again, weigh it out. What do you lose by not doing this? What do you gain by doing this? And picture the possibilities. Picture all of the possibilities. And I know that for me, this sounds so cheesy, but it actually worked. Where, there's moments when I literally had to say out loud to snap my mindset, snap my mind out of those negative thoughts or those scary thoughts of what could happen in those worst case scenarios. I literally just, yelled at the top of my lungs. It's like, I'm Chantell and I'm not scared. I'm doing this, And the more I said that, the more I started, my posture would change. My whole energy would change. And I was able to step into this place where it's like, you know what? No matter how scared I am, I'm doing this because I gain an experience. Who knows who I can meet, right? And if you're at a place where, let's say, for example, even in my own story, I didn't really truly know I wanted to be a coach, but what if I went to that coaching class and I met someone and it was a marketing opportunity and I fell into that instead. So always think of the possibilities versus, the blockers and the walls. Yeah.
And it's also a bit addictive. Once you kind of, like you said, crash into fear, it's like, yes, you get this kick, total big kick out of it. And then it's like, oh, what can I do next? I've done the same thing. It's a bit like with this podcast. There was one day I was a guest in Lab and I was like, this is not that hard. I can totally do this. And then once I got things going and I posted like, anybody want to be my guest? And then I got 10 people like, yes, I'm in. And I was like, wow. So, it's just, make it a game or whatever works to, get those fears out of the way and just take one step at a time.
I totally agree. When you say, here's another thing to kind of move past the fear. Like, there's a really, really good quote, and I can't remember who said it off the top of my head, but the quote says, if you stay in your head, you're dead. Yeah. If you do something and you're putting constant action and you're aligning yourself with those actions, and it could be something so simple as, you're reaching out and you're interested in, let's say, a contract position, or you want to get to know that person who posted a job ad. You just never know who you're going to meet. And so have that sense of excitement rather than thinking of, fear of rejection or, I'm going to feel so exposed. If you go at it from that angle, you'll be stuck. And nobody wants to be stuck, right? Yeah. So if you switch that little tweak, and Nina was so right, like you start getting addicted to it and then you start pushing yourself for the next thing just to see what can come up and what the possibilities are. And that's the thing, when you start seeing those little results too, no matter how small. If let's say you do a good job on one of your contracts, right? And let's say you get a review for it, that is gold. That's like a nugget of gold because you're building yourself up and people will start trusting you.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, it'll be so easy. Rather than you trying to go seek these opportunities, people will start flowing in and wanting to look for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So let's talk about next thing. Let me see. You have this 5-day course that I've gone through as well. And, it talks about also, there's 5 things. What were they? Awareness. I remember the first and last, awareness and action.
Yeah, so, the 5 A's would be awareness, and then it's appreciation.
Yes. Yeah.
Awareness, appreciation, acceptance.
Yep.
Accountability, or action and then accountability.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
with those, the action and accountability, how important do you think it is to surround yourself with like-minded people? Because so often we are not in those friend and family, they just want us to stay where we are, not to change. But did you have a accountability partner or mastermind or something in your change when you went through the whole thing?
For sure. So I had already mentioned that I went through the course, and I already met a bunch of amazing people there. So this is another thing, guys. When I said possibilities and what you can create, you're not just creating yourself, your brand, your identity. You're creating relationships.
Yeah.
And so when I went through that course, I met so many amazing people that we stayed connected with. And then, I guess I was like driven, or I was really hungry for a group of people who would get it, especially when you're at a 9-to-5. And, sometimes, and this might sound like a little wrong, but sometimes you feel like it's sucking your soul, like it's taking away your soul, because nobody understands and nobody can kind of relate to you on that different level.
Yeah.
And so some of the things that I kept myself motivated while I was at work, or a day after work, or whatever, is like, I would look at different websites or blog sites or things that kept me motivated. Now, when I was going through the process of, coaching, and even now I have a coach, I have mentors, I have masterminds, groups, Facebook groups. There are so many resources, absolutely so many. But the thing that you have to be consistent in is take initiative.
Yeah.
To start a conversation, to start connecting, and it's funny because that's how we met, through a group. And it was literally like I just threw a post. So again, guys, like, it's not like, move past that fear, because you don't know what great thing is around that corner, or like just over that obstacle, I guess, or over that wall of fear. And so it was so funny because I just literally posted like a little blurb on Facebook, and that's how Nina and I connected. And now it's like I feel like I've gained another friend and a like-minded person where we can talk about all these creative things with.
Yeah. Somebody who understands and is in the same place.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. So finding the tribe, like everybody says now, so you have to find your tribe with like-minded people. Because then, it's hearing somebody else's success and how they've reached. It's kind of like, oh my God, I can do that. I totally can do that. And just creates the excitement and hopefully the action as well. So I do Facebook is great for finding those groups. I'm part of, I stopped counting how many groups I'm in. I'm not active in many of them, but still, if there's a rainy day, I know where to go if I need that kick on what to do next.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really, really important, because, nobody's saying that you can't do it on your own. You could, absolutely. But the thing is who would want to do it alone? That's my number one question. Number two, it's like, if you're to do it alone, it could take so long, because you don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of, especially if you're new. Right? And you're kind of still unclear, and you're trying to get into the swing of things, or how you propose, or, like talk to your prospects, or things like that, right? It could be anything. But if someone has gone through it before, and if they can offer you any bit of advice, why not? Right? And these groups are so amazingly supportive. I've met so many people who are just absolutely amazing, and they're not necessarily within my industry, but just even being a part of a group where they kind of get this want of freedom or this different type of lifestyle, right? Like when I first met you and I heard that you travel everywhere, I was like, yes, she totally gets it. I would totally love to do that, right? And so it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And whenever I'm somewhere in a big city, I look through meetups in that city, and I attend anything and everything that's remotely business-like. So it doesn't matter what it is. I always learn something. And if I don't learn from the presentation itself, I learn from the person sitting next to me. So, and I increase my network every time. So I think it's critical to get out of the house and go meet people if you can.
Absolutely. That is a really, really good point, because sometimes I find that a lot of people who strive for this type of lifestyle or who are hungry for these type of desires and these type of wants are really, really hardworking. They're go-getters. They're the absolute hustlers. Like they're the heart-centered people who really want to make an impact. And when you are sitting in front of the computer, or if you're isolated too long, even if it's online groups and stuff, not saying that they're, not great, they're really good support, but sometimes you just need that interaction and you don't know what would come from that. Like I was having a really bad week last week, and it was because I was working too hard. I was putting so much self-pressure with what I was doing and everything that I really just needed to, just take a day off. That's the difference. When you're at a 9 to 5, you have holidays, you have all these stats or whatever. But then when you start off as a freelancer or as the blogger or a business owner or anything else, you get into this zone where it's like you become obsessed.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, this is my baby. Like, I need to constantly feed it. But the thing is, if you don't feed yourself with some human interactions or exploring or some life experiences outside of your business, it's going to be really hard to constantly keep in that flow and that energy to keep giving and receiving, right? Yeah. So be okay with receiving. That's a huge block that I always see is like, there's a huge block with receiving. Especially when you're new, you want to give so much, give, but then you burn out.
Yeah.
And nobody wins that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. True.
Yeah. So even this past weekend, I just stopped working. I went to volunteer. And after volunteering, I came home. And to be honest with you, I felt literally on top of the world because I was conversing. I wasn't focused on, what do I got to do? What are my deliverables? What do I have to come up with? What are my content? What's my mind map for this week? So, and it was funny because naturally afterwards, everything, like all the ideas just started coming in.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes it's also about taking a moment, relax, and take some time for yourself as well.
Yes.
Balance.
Absolutely, because I can speak for myself, I'm sure other people, when you start the business, you kind of this tunnel, and there's just stuff coming up everywhere. You got to do this and that, and it's just never ending. You're doing anything and everything. And then you're in a tunnel with just so many tasks ahead of you that it's really hard to actually step back and let go. Even for the evening or the weekend, it's like, I should be really doing my accounts this weekend. It's just like, it's really hard to take time off too once you really get into it. So it's kind of like 24/7. You created your own job again. You're kind of the prisoner in your own business.
That's why awareness is one of the first keys. Yeah. Honestly, guys, like awareness is so, so, so important. When you are starting to become aware with what you're doing and how you're being in your business and what you're putting into it, let's say the scenario is you've tried everything. You are working so hard and you're, putting out massive content and you're putting out all these different things. You experience overwhelm. Yeah. And when you start feeling and experiencing overwhelm and you're spinning your wheels and you're doing all this work, but you have nothing in return, that's a huge, huge indicator that you need to just step back. Yeah. Step back and go for that coffee if you want to. Go see your friends. Go to that meetup. Whatever works for you. But and then like when you go through that experience, you know, you go for this coffee or you go and step back and just take a breather from all the things that you have to do, right? And then you come back, it's like, boom, it just comes. It comes to you. And then you get back into the natural flow. This is super, super, super important. I find that people put way too much pressure on themselves sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's what I mean. Like, awareness is key. Number one, always go back to awareness. Like, if something isn't working out, you have to be aware of, okay, what was I doing? Where did it go wrong? And step back and start looking at that bird's eye view again. These are the steps that I took, but then what happened?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you become aware of it and you actually see the blind spot, it gets so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that problem because I work from home or wherever I am. I just open my laptop and in my office. So it's kind of like, it's Sunday morning. It's like, oh, I could just do that email. And then 5 hours later, it's like, oh, I'm still here. I haven't done anything. So it's sometimes hard to also take time off, which is, you know, but routines, I think, are important.
Exactly. And so, yes. Oh, and this is something that I have found that has helped me. I'm not quite sure if you've experienced this, but I got to a point where I would literally, like, I was so drawn and obsessed that I would literally, like, forget to eat. I would forget to eat. And so, and it's really easy when you're in this spot and you don't really have distractions because you created that office or that space, right? So one of the things that I actually started to do was I literally have like a reminder and an alarm on my phone. And when that goes off, it snaps you out of, you know, the zone that you're in because you need to take a break. One of the things that I've found with the majority of people who start out and who are trying to start their businesses and blogs, whatever it is that they're up to, they get really obsessed with it to a point where they don't remember self-care. So another key is like, you know, or I guess this is like a little bit more of an awareness thing again. It's like create that balance.
Yes.
Right? You need to be healthy. You need to have you need to be healthy physically, mentally to show up and, you know, do your work in an effective and impactful way. If you keep not taking care of all aspects of it, something will start happening and then you'll experience even more obstacles, more frustrations that will stop you. One of the things that I've noticed is like, you know, what kept me from moving forward and up leveling, like right now I'm great, but I'm not where I want to be. Right. And so one of the things that I realized is that, you know, it was the people, it was like the opinions or like my significant other or, you know, those things were holding me back. So I had to be aware of that. And when I was aware, I had to sit down and kind of clear that debris and get back into the zone of creation. Right. If not, you'll just keep, it's like you're trying to run into the wall every time and it won't work.
Okay, cool. So what kind of people do you work with now? Do you have what's your niche right now?
So this is an interesting thing. Because remember that whole big vision that we were talking about? In the beginning, all I knew was that I wanted to help people. And I knew that I really needed a niche. But I tell you, I kid you not, I was so tired of hearing, you need to find a niche, you need to find a niche. Because I actually didn't know. I didn't know because I had no experiences. I was starting out and I was like, oh my God, everybody's telling me I need a niche. And the moment I started thinking, okay, asking myself, what are my strong suits? What do I want to provide? What are the problems that could be solved? It got more like we're all humans, right? So, and even if you're starting out, it evolves. So if you don't know right away, that's fine, right? Just focus on what you want to solve and focus on what you want to give. What are your strong suits? How do you want to have fun with this, right? How do you want to come into this with a sense of excitement, like that passion? So if you're stuck, list out all of your passions, your hobbies, your like all those, like everything that you're interested in, your possible skills, right? And go from there. That is your starting point, and that is your map. Circle the top 3-4 things that you would absolutely love to do. And whether you have the knowledge or not, start there. You know, you can always build upon knowledge to get there. For the people who already know, man, I wish I could give you a high five because it was so hard for me. For me now, I love working with people who are starting new businesses, who have gone through this whole transitional phase where, you know, they're kind of starting out, but they're not really sure what steps to take, or they're a little confused, or they don't know what their strengths are or their weaknesses, because I had a hard time with this in the beginning. But the more I was just focusing, when I switched my mindset and I was thinking to myself, okay, is that really, really what I need to get started? Because that held me back for a little bit. And when I let that go, and I was just starting to think of the problems, the solutions, or what I want to offer, the type of conversations that I wanted to have, it was like those little puzzle pieces coming together. Yeah. And the more you have experiences, you're going to expand, and then it'll just come to you, and you're going to be like, nope. If you want to change and evolve in your brand or your message or whatever it is that you're up to, if you want to take a completely different direction, that's fine too. Like there's this one girl I know, and we connected in a group, and she started out as a Christian, only for Christian women entrepreneurs, where she does web designing for these women. And so that is super specific. Yeah. Right? Super, super, super specific. But she worked, it was her zone of genius. She knew really well. She didn't really have to build on her expertise or her skills or her knowledge. So that's her starting point. And that was really, really smart, because that gave her momentum, and creating the client base and creating that flow and the income and everything else. And she's already at a point, she probably, if I remember correctly, I think she did that for 3 to 6 months. Okay. 3 to 6 months. And then already now she's expanding to more industries, to more women, or to just like web designing specifically for people who want to rebrand or things like that. But she's expanding. Yeah. And so this is the thing that is so exciting and so great about being your own boss, because you get to call the shots. Yes. Right? So you get to do however you get, what works for you. Do it. Yeah. Play around with it. What doesn't work, what works. Like you'll get really, really clear on those things the more you put action. Yes. It's procrastination that kind of stops you. Like, what is my niche? What is my niche? And it just stops you going anywhere and figuring it out, because you can only figure it when you actually do something. And then especially when you do something and you start talking to people, like what is your problem and what people ask from you all the time. That's the easiest indication of where you should probably go, or where you could go and make money. So absolutely, good point. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So what's going to happen with your business? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to be next year? What's happening with your business? So for me, one of my big goals is, there's so many things that I want to do, but basically I just want to, have more of an outreach. You know, I've always had this passion and always had this vision of, even if it takes, you know, helping someone, one person at a time to get to my ultimate goal, that's the way that I'll have to do it. So for me, it's like making that impact, having that audience, having my tribe, and build upon that, and making more and more of an impact, and helping people, that it's like this ongoing conversation type of thing, and building a sense of community where it's a ripple effect, right? You know, one thing that's really interesting about coaching is when someone transforms from their core in their dreams, their desires, their wants, their action steps, the accountability steps that they take, the awareness, the acceptance, all those keys when they come into play, and you kind of build this thing that is just a ripple effect. It's absolutely amazing. You start, the people around you starts to kind of shift and kind of transform into something else as well. So when you transform, you have no idea the impact and the difference that you make, and that ripple effect that you create is so massive. Yeah. So massive.
Cool.
And so that's
that's good. Any travel plans? You would love to travel. Are you still kind of considering maybe going nomad, or are you going to stay put and maybe maybe it's a someday plan, or is it a next year plan?
So I'm actually working on a manifestation right now. I really, I have a friend who's actually going to Europe in October. Okay. And so I'm working really, really hard. I'm manifesting, I'm working hard, and I'm getting excited just thinking about it, because that's one of the things that I wanted to do. If not, then I'll definitely travel sometime next year.
Yep.
But, absolutely. I've just got the wanderlust right now.
Where would you want to go in Europe? Do you have any dream destinations, or?
I would love to go, all of the places. If I'm able to, actually, I'm gonna switch my mindset here. It's I will do this
when you are able, not if.
Yeah. So there's London, there's Greece, Athens, Rome, all those places I want to go because I've never been before. So it'll be really, really nice to check out.
Oh, cool. And do check Finland if you do go there. Since I'm from Finland, so I'm going to promote my country.
Absolutely. You actually just came back not too long ago. You're in Spain now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how long have you been in Spain for now?
Just over a month, and I'm going to be here another 2 months. So I'm house sitting here, until the end of September.
Yeah. So how's your experience with Spain so far? What are some of your first impressions, or what do you like about Spain?
People are so friendly, helpful, and laid back.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my Spanish is awful, but they don't mind. They patiently listen, and they're like, okay, I have no idea what she's talking, but let's just, work things out. So it's been really good. The Spanish lifestyle with the siestas and eating late doesn't really fit with me, but otherwise I do love it.
Yes, the culture's super different.
Yes.
And people are really nice.
Yeah. Cool.
So what are some of the plans that you have worked up for yourself and what you're creating?
Well, I actually, yesterday kind of decided I'm going to do a summit. So online conference, and I may do it already in November.
Wow.
So, that's quite a big project to take on. But
sorry.
I think I might just go ahead with it and see what happens. Be a practice case or whatever, but just go ahead and do it. Not wait for the perfect moment. Just, say, I'm going to do it, and, everybody please help me type of thing.
Oh my goodness. See, this is the thing that I've always been so I just love that about you. The fact that, it doesn't matter what your fears are or your uncertainties and things like that. Which is really, really important as well. When you make that decision in your head and then you say it out loud, you're basically deciding and declaring that you're going to do it. And so when you naturally do that, it's like the actions come. It's that simple. It's that easy. It doesn't have to be hard, right? And so that's something that I just always loved about you. It didn't matter what was happening or what else was going on or the feelings that came up. You're just like, you know what? I thought this would be a good idea. Let's do it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a bit crazy in that way. Same with this podcasting or webcasting. I just thought, hey, let's just do it as soon as possible so we get out of the way. So then, I can say, I've done it. Okay, it's easy now. Yeah. Yeah, the same with the summits.
Super.
And summit, actually, when I decided kind of I'm going to do it, I posted a job for somebody to help me with the technical parts, the website and, funnels and everything. I didn't find that, but I actually found a virtual assistant who's a summit specialist. So she's been part of 20 or so summits. And I was like, oh, I need help. Can you help me? So I've interviewed her and she's ready to go once I actually put the dates and everything else in place. So once you put that first thing out there, things come to you.
Yeah, it's really amazingly unexplainable, hey? Like, that whole thing that you just said, you just put it out there and you have no idea what comes back. And then all of a sudden these things start popping up and you're like, holy cow. Like a summit specialist just popped up.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
Awesome.
Okay. You have, I think we mentioned already that you have a email course that I've also gone through. Do you want to tell a little bit about that so the people who listen, so that they know why they should come and sign up?
Yeah, for sure. So my website is Chantell, CHANTELL.co. And if you sign up, you get instant access to a free course. And what that course does is it just gives you kind of like a structure and kind of like the building blocks on how to implement these 5 keys that we've discussed during this webcast into your daily routine. And one of the things that I encourage you guys to do is just stay consistent with it, because the more consistent and the more actions you take, the more accountability things that come up, the more awareness. When you have all these things working interlinked together, you begin to see these results that you just never thought would happen. So definitely check it out if you're interested. Again, the website was CHANTELL.co.
Good. Thank you very much. And I can highly recommend the course as well, as I've gone through it as well. And I can recommend coaching with Chantell as well. I don't know if you get any spots free, but you can join in the waiting list if she doesn't. So it's great to have, I think it's critical to have somebody coaching you, not necessarily just somebody who's not your friends and family, who can give it their kind of guidance and opinions and kind of direct you and ask hard questions. So,
absolutely.
I think it's
funny that you mentioned that. Because I had my coaching session with one of my coaches this morning, and it's funny because she kicked my butt. Like there's no hiding. There's, it brings that whole alpha in you where you do create those results, because other people can't do it for you. But when you have a really good support system, it just accelerates that progress. And I've been working with her for maybe 2 weeks, and the results that I've seen are just exponential. So I recommend it, even if it's a mentor that supports the support groups and meetups and the things that we have mentioned so far. Find something.
Absolutely. Find something, anything to get you going. Find your people wherever they are. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yes.
I think that was everything for today. Thank you very much, Chantell, for today. I'm so happy you were my first guest. Yes, and we could start from the beginning, which is the mindset and going through the fears and the whole process to get you going. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity, Nina.
No problem. Thank you very much.